Folks, look at us in undisclosed locations. I'm in my security penthouse, and Leroy is.
I'm high network.
He's okay. Well, never mind. We'll break the kayfabe here for a little bit and just say what's going on. Fair enough.
Well, I'm on lunch break and I don't have an office yet, and so I sometimes I come to this office in another part of the building to just kind of like get stuff done or do one of these streams because like where I sit is a high traffic area, and
You want to
whenever
help get
somebody
Leroy office? Like, comment, subscribe below.
yeah
Let's get these subscriber votes up. Let's
yeah
get him an
so
office.
yeah, honestly, I'm not in a hurry to get an office either because
Okay.
they're very valuable here.
Oh, okay.
Like where people covet their offices, and I'm like, I'm good. Like, don't
Sure.
get me wrong, I would like to have an office so I could put up like nerd stuff in it, but you know, I'm good.
Okay.
So,
Sir, what are we talking about today?
we're going to talk about Dune 2.
Oh, wait, who are you?
I'm Leroy. That's Michael.
Yeah,
This is the We Tryin' channel, a
there we
Nerdy
go.
by Nature Productions.
Mhm.
Um, if you have been watching this for at least a minute, you're new. Thank you. Welcome. We're two Negroes talking about nerd shit. And, or, African Americans, coloreds,
Still talking
what's
about
another?
nerd shit.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Put in whatever adjective or whatever description you want to put in the beginning and then
Uh-huh.
say talks about nerd shit.
Okay,
So,
there we go.
moon cricket, uh, you know,
Jesus.
I
All
want to
right.
know. I want to know where the term moon cricket came from. Like
Chat, let us know in the comments.
I want a frontline deep dive into the origin of moon cricket. And is it
Fantastic.
actually a racist term, or is it something that I came up with? Like at the end of the whole episode, I wanted to be like, and this fool Leroy is
Hmm.
really the originator of this. Episode over. Okay.
Fantastic.
So, um, the movie that I didn't know I needed came out, and I have been sitting on this for a while, waiting on this conversation because I needed you to watch it, and I needed from a person who's not as deeply invested in this to
Have you said
see
what
it.
the
It was
movie is yet?
yeah, Dune 2.
Okay.
I thought I said that
You
because
may
you
have.
said, "Well, who are you?"
Okay.
So, I really want to discuss this because I think this is an interesting way to do an adaptation of a book, of a popular book, of a book that everybody who's read it wants to see told on the big screen, but it was also one of the most unfilmable movies. David Lynch attempted it back in the day by doing one movie. Um,
It was a TV series, right? Or did I make that
it
up?
was a TV series on sci-fi that covered multiple books.
Okay.
I think they got all the way to Children of the Dune. I think they got there. I have to go back and look. Um, Jodorowsky attempted. There's a documentary that's a very good documentary where he basically tries to capture the craziness that is Dune. And Villeneuve has set his sights on it. I think he did a very good job creating the world. I do have some issues with it, the world that he's created in the two different movies, but I like what I've seen.
Okay.
So let's start with your interpretation. So let's start with you watched Dune 2 fairly recently,
Yep.
and you watched it in the theater. You watched so you tell me your journey from watching the first one earlier that day and then going to the movie to see the second one.
Sure. All right. So, brief background. When Dune, the first Dune came out and it was streaming on Max, I saw it there. I didn't go to the theaters to see it. I saw it on Max. Hadn't
That was
seen it.
COVID time.
That was COVID times.
Mhm.
I think it was HBO Max at that point. It wasn't Max. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw it then. Hadn't seen it again until right before I went to go see Dune 2. And I really think seeing them back to back is definitely beneficial, unless you really know the material and you can keep up with the names and everything and know the Harkonnens and Trades and all the houses and everything. But seeing it back to back was definitely helpful. Kind of reminds me almost of like Game of Thrones, how kind of watching it back to back is helpful to know with the names. But the first time I saw the first Dune, I was like, this is good, but I felt like something was lacking. And it definitely was. Dune 1 was definitely the setup. and Dune 2
Yes,
gave you a lot of payoff. And seeing them together really worked well. Because I had so many questions and a lot of them were getting answered in the second. Like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. I really enjoyed Dune 2. Um, I know some people are trying to say, hey, COVID showed us we can do movies at home, and you can, but it is not the same experience as seeing it at theater. It
it is
really
not.
isn't. Um, there's just something about this movie in particular, the way it was shot. It was so gorgeous. The people just popped on screen. I loved everybody, and it's so interesting. Back when, now I won't say during black and white movies, but like maybe in the 50s and 60s of movies, back when you had like movie stars, like when movie stars were really only worked with one studio, you know,
Mhm.
I feel like, oh, that's a movie star. And I got this similar feeling here, only in the sense that they were shot so beautiful, like, oh, this is just captures everybody great. Um, I think for the most part, everybody had a little bit of time to shine. I think one character kind of didn't get his shine. I feel like maybe they got their shine in the part one, and part two got a little short change. Maybe two characters now that I think about it. Um, but seeing them back to back, I didn't feel as heartbroken that they didn't get as much time in the second one. But overall, really loved it. Man, that Timothy Chalamet, that boy can act. That dude's good. I like Timothy Chalamet. Zendaya's great. Um, it was just such a really thought provoking movie on religion and how it can be used, weaponized almost, people's faith. I think it hit a lot of different themes that I was not expecting because again, I didn't read Dune. I may have seen part of the original movie a long time ago. Do not remember it at all. I have a question for you, non spoiler. Uh, so people who saw the first one will remember that sometimes people would have like a blue, and you may have told me this when we talked about the first one. They have a blue shield or a protector on them. Like you if they're in battle, you would stab them and there would be like a blue aura around them sometimes.
Oh, you mean like the shield when they would try to penetrate it?
Yes, yes. And then sometimes it would be red. Is that because it was a fatal hit?
Oh, I didn't notice that. I
Oh,
wasn't.
okay.
I guess
Never
I
mind.
was. I mean, we could probably look it up, and in the comments, if you're watching this
Yeah, it's just
down
like
there,
sometimes it was a blue shield, sometimes it was a red shield. What I kind of determined, it seemed like, oh, this was a fatal hit. Maybe the shield finally turned red, or it was a some type of mortal wound or something. I don't know. Just
maybe.
curious.
Um, yeah, I really did enjoy this film, and I really was caught off guard a little bit how well they did the themes in the book because, like, you can read a book and you can be like, okay, this is a good book.
And they left stuff out
The
of the book, right?
They left a lot of stuff out, but
Yeah.
it wasn't enough stuff that they left out that was like it took away from the core. So, perfect example, I enjoy the movie World War Z.
Hmm.
I read the book World War Z. Me and my wife read it. Matter of fact, that's the first book we read together, and our first date was going to go see that movie. After we had been talking, we read that book together, and this is how big of a nerd we are. We went and saw the movie, and then we were like, "What the fudge was that? That's not what we read." The book World War Z is basically this guy covering the timeline of how the disease spread. It's like a diary. He's going back trying to map after we've gotten, I want to say, after we've gotten a kind of a control on the virus. Like, we have the world is a little more stable. His job is to go around to basically ascertain how we got here, like following the strands, kind of like an archaeologist, so to speak. That's not the movie we got. Once the movie came out, we heard that there was a whole third act that was scrapped. If you go back and watch the end of World War Z and you see like those scenes of like buildings and people with flamethrowers, that
Hmm.
was supposed to be the third act, was supposed to be in Russia. And so there's all this different information out there about how that movie changed and how the book was different. So it didn't go that route. Um, but there were things that were like left on the cutting room floor, characters that we didn't get to see. Um, plot points that I think they cut out that streamlined it a little bit more, because this is a very dense. Here's the thing, what I think, and some other people pointed out when we talked about the original movie, which I glossed over it, and I don't want to gloss over it in this review, and I'm not going to belabor the point. A lot of people believe, and even Frank Herbert believes, Dune is the blueprint for Star Wars.
Sure, I can see
So
that.
when you look at how Dune is told, if you look at it from the lens that Dune came first, and a lot of the elements that Dune touched upon, George Lucas used, and George Lucas has admitted, I've swiped quite a few things from different. He's swiped things from Akira Kurosawa,
I mean,
westerns.
Dune could be Tatooine or
So
sand desert
the
planets. Sure.
the whole idea of a messiah, a lot of these things you can kind of see. So when I say that I understand why certain things were left on the cutting room floor for a more streamlined story, I get it, because it is very hard to tell this story, especially from the standpoint that you talked about, the religious aspect. Um, that I thought was really well done. I have one part that I do think that they did not do a good job with, but that's spoiler. So I just want to talk about the film itself. For me, this is a 4 point. I would give this 4.5. Uh, I'd give this 4.5 Dune worms,
Okay.
sandworms.
Okay.
I would. I feel like this was executed very well, better than I thought it could be. They made the worlds fantastic, but also believable. The scenes made sense. So when you went to a different planet like Gedi Prime, you realized you were in a different world, a different culture, a different environment. When you went to Arrakis, you knew where you were. When you went to the scenes with Florence Pugh
What's
as
the black and white place?
that's Gedi Prime,
Yeah, man. God, that was
Gedi
shot
Prime, yeah.
beautifully.
Yeah, and then when you go where Princess Irulan, Florence Pugh, where you go, I forget what the Emperor's planet was called, but when you go there, you see like, oh, I could see an emperor living here. It's beautiful. It's lush. There's like, it looks like a paradise.
Hmm.
So I was definitely in love with this, and I know a lot of people. A friend of the show, Barrett Gruber, always talks about movies don't need to be this long. I'm of the opposite end of that. Certain movies do need time to flesh out, to breathe. And I think this is one of them
I
because go ahead.
I was gonna say, to news people, I almost equate it to a package. A lot of times you want your package to be a minute 30. But I mean,
Mhm.
if you got good meat to tell, make it longer.
Yeah,
If,
I
as
mean,
long as the stories keep me interested, I'm in for the ride.
there's certain times that you feel a movie like you can feel its weight.
Hmm.
The time is a weight on you, and you can feel like they should be wrapping this up right about now. I didn't feel that, but I did feel like it was a lot. And I think so. I was talking about this movie with a couple of people at work, and I was like, go into it with an open mind, but go into it knowing there's a lot of heady material here that you have to juxtapose with this world and then look at the world around you. And you may not be ready to do that with this film. You may want to go and just, I want to watch a film about fantasy people and spaceships and that. Yeah, there is a lot of that element into it, but it's not Star Wars, and I think that's what I want people to understand. This ain't Star Wars.
Sure.
This is what happens when people, you let corporations, you let the world that we live in right now, of tens of thousands of years in the future. We're still people, and we're still willing to f each other over for a resource. That's that.
You
So,
control the spice. You control what was control everything.
yep.
Yeah. I gotta rate it. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 blue juices, blue waters. Yeah.
Bile. That was the bile of the sandworm.
Yeah, man, that's what a way to get an excrement out of whatever and drink it. And
Water of life.
yeah, water of life. Yeah, it was. If you hadn't seen it, go see it. I mean, most people have seen it. I know it did gangbusters at the.
It did better than the first one. There's talk of there's going to be a sec. There's going to be. They're hoping that they get greenlit for the third one, but
Mhm.
if they don't, this is a great way to end it. If they don't, I know I talked about. I didn't know. The first movie was great. I loved it. I'm not saying I didn't want the second one, but I didn't know how they were going to do the second one. Like how much of that, because it is a hard book to tackle once the ball starts rolling. So it'd be interesting to see where they go with how much they changed, because I think that would be, I would really like to see it.
Yeah.
Um, but that's my, we're about the 15-minute mark. That's my
Yeah.
vote, 4.5. Go see it. Now, now let's get into the spoilers. Let's break this film down. There we go. There's the, hey, orange for Dune.
There we go. Fantastic.
See?
Um,
Uh,
I'm sorry. Jessica is out here talking to her baby because that's
yes.
that's just what you do. And apparently, in the book, there's a baby is born and walks around.
So the spice that the spice that she's been ingesting, and then the water of life thing that she goes through to become their Bene Gesserit. Um, she it affects they don't want a pregnant woman to go through that because of how it can affect the body, it can affect the child. So when is it Aaliyah? I want to say Aaliyah. Aaliyah comes out. She's basically, I don't want to say an adult, but she is a very advanced toddler.
Hmm.
So, like, as a baby, she already is 3 or 4 and leaps and bounds of where developmental where she should be. And that causes some problems later on in the next chapter of Dune. But it is a very interesting, uh, how do I say this? It's a very interesting family dynamic where you have Paul, who's now the leader of the family, his
Hmm.
mother, and his unborn sister, who he talks to through his mom
Hmm.
and talks back. So to
Yeah.
the outside world, anybody watching this little, and I don't want to use a threesome, but this trinity you got going on probably looks insane,
Oh yeah, for sure,
in,
definitely.
unless you are a believer,
Right.
and then you're willing.
Um, this movie's. I don't know what its stance, and smarter people can figure this out. Maybe it was on purpose. I don't know what its stance on religion is. I don't know if it's saying it was good or bad, and it's up for you to decide. So maybe that's cool.
Frank Herbert had always said, "Be wary of powerful religious people who." Basically, what he was saying was, beware of people who use religion, powerful people who consider themselves a messiah, and that's because even though they may have good intentions, that does not mean they are good people.
Yeah, and let me
And
let me clarify before they come on me on the internet. I understand, or at least I got the idea that Paul kept saying what the Bene Gesserits were doing was wrong because you essentially you started this whole idea of a prophet by putting it in these people's ears, whether or not it
mhm,
was real or not. So you kind of made this happen. So I get that point, but I don't know that it was completely unfounded because it does seem like once he was it a self-fulfilling prophecy because once he drank the water of life, then he was seeing all the visions. So I don't know.
so that's my biggest problem with this film, is
Okay.
that they did not do a good job, because what happened was they so if you remember correctly, Paul, he said, I don't want to go south
Right. Where the
because
zealots are.
mhm, he didn't want to go south. He wanted to stay in the north, where they believe, but they weren't believers.
Hmm.
So, and he knew if he went south, the visions that he had told of him death and destruction. He knew that was an outcome if he went south. When he took the water of life, the visions became clearer, and he saw multiple futures. So he understood that in order for him to, because what basically Paul is going through is he's seeing visions of the destruction of humanity. We we kill ourselves as a society, as a species. We eradicate ourselves. His visions, he sees multiple ways. Perfect example: Doctor Strange, Infinity War.
Right.
There's one.
Hmm.
That's what Paul is trying to do. He's trying to follow the path of the one that brings us to the
Peace
point
or something.
where we win.
Right.
Where we win. That's what Doctor Strange is saying. Paul is trying to get us to that one path where we don't kill ourselves as a species. And he understands his vision is fractured. Once he drinks the water of life, he's able to see more clearly. The problem is, in order to do that, he has to do things according to what the vision said. He has to walk a particular path. He has to do this at this time, that time, and that alienates other people. Um, you saw Shawnee's realization at the end of the movie where she had been fighting and helping him not to succumb to those visions,
Hmm.
not to not walk down that path, where she was like, "Oh, you've gone full cult leader now."
Yeah. Yeah.
And to that was my biggest problem with the film. They did not do a good job of explaining that part, because I know that's what's going on,
Because you read the
but they
book.
didn't. And I have books, like I have the art book. I have, like, I know that. I've watched. They did not do a good job of that, and they do a better job of it in the television series because those visions matter as time goes on,
Hmm.
and people are trying to manipulate and do certain things. Um, that part was not explained well, and I think that juxtaposition of where he was the reluctant leader in the beginning, and you remember that line where um, Josh Brolin was like, "You can use this." He's like, "You're scared, you know, about the power," and he's like, "No, I gain it." He's like, "You're scared you lose control." He's like, "No, I totally take." He's like, "You don't get what's about to happen. I win."
Yeah.
And I win convincingly. Like it's one of those type things. And I think they didn't do a good job of explaining that to me, to my satisfaction. And I knew what was going on. So I was like, if you're watching this and you're on the outside, you don't recognize that fight that he's having. Um, and I think that should have been explained a little better.
You mentioned Josh Brolin.
Mhm.
Was it Gunny? Is that his name?
Gurney, Gurney,
Gurney. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Gurney Halleck.
yes, he was great in the first one, and I was happy that he came back in the second one. But him and I'm trying to find the people. Dave Batista, Glasso,
Beast Raban,
Beast.
the Baron Raban.
No, 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 not Stellan Skarsgård.
No, Dave Batista.
I thought the
Dave.
Baron was Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, sorry. The Baron Harkonnen is Harkonnen is Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
The Beast Dave Batista, Beast Raban. Yes, sorry.
Okay, got it. Yes. Okay, so he was essentially the instrument of destruction that took out the Atreides camp,
Hmm.
and Gurney was upset about it, rightfully so. That was his people. I felt like their fight should have been longer or more drawn out or something. It was over very quickly between them two at the end, and maybe that was so we could focus more on Fade and Paul, which was I really enjoyed that fight a lot. But I just kind
Yeah.
of wanted them to get more to do. It was interesting because Dave Batista was such this menacing force in the first one. At least I felt that way, and then he was nothing in this to the compliment of what Austin Butler did with Fade. He was just
Hmm.
this psychopath, unhinged dude, and I was like, man, I like this. Something about him. He was small. He wasn't like menacing and big like Dave Batista, but still something about him was scary. I really liked his performance, and I think it was a credit to both actors that Dave Batista was able to kind of bow down to him and let him do whatever. But I kind of wish he had gotten more to do when in the fight against Gurney.
So that fight at the end is actually improvised. Well, I don't want to say improvised. It was added. It's not actually in the book.
Oh, okay.
Fremen kill the Raban,
Okay.
and Gurney doesn't kill him, even though that it works. So there's a lot of things in the book that were changed for the movie. It's a perfect example. Paul does not kill the Baron at the end.
Yeah, the little baby goes.
The baby does.
Is she a
Yes,
little baby?
yes, the baby does.
Okay, thank you.
um, but like so also in the book, Paul and Chani have a child that dies during one of the raids.
I read that. Yep.
So like I think that was given that scene was added to give Gurney Halleck's character that because you talked about watching the first one, and I think it's very important to watch that first one because remember, there's that scene where Paul Atreides and the Duke are standing there, and the Duke tells him, "Smile, Gurney." And Gurney's like, "I am smiling." He's like, "You don't know the Harkonnens." He's like, and you saw a little bit of that idea of House Atreides have been fighting the Harkonnens when Paul explains to them, "You've been fighting them for decades. My family's been fighting these people for centuries."
Right.
And so I think that scene was added to give Gurney Halleck's character that satisfaction of killing the man who basically decimated his family,
Sure.
decimated, Um, you also forget there's certain things from the first movie that are left out, like Thufir, the black guy, the Mentat, who was captured. He is not in this film. Um, there's a lot of other things in this film that is left out that I think they streamlined. Uh, but I think some things that one aspect I didn't like that streamlining. The idea of Paul not explaining a little bit more of that twist of fate that he's going to have, where he talks about when he walks up there and he just assumes power. He
Right.
just he doesn't ease into it. He's not gentle. He's like, you wanted this, you got it.
Hmm.
So I'm embracing it. And he was very brash about it. He talked about, I'm going to be a Harkonnen. Um, and because you saw the realization of, oh, we are Harkonnens.
Right.
Like that realization, I thought, and it's not that I forgot, but even as a fan, knowing it caught me so off guard the way they did it, I really appreciated that little, you know, punch, that gut punch of like, oh, you know, that I really enjoyed that. So kudos to the casting crew for pulling that off as well.
Were there
Um,
any standout performances to you like that just stood out above the others or anything?
um, I want to say Rebecca Ferguson was amazing.
Yeah, Lady Jessica, she's a badass. She was awesome.
Um, I
Let's get her a
Re-
solo action movie. When's she gonna get one of those?
Rebecca Ferguson was amazing. Florence Pugh, for the little bit of time she was on screen, was very good. Like I felt like they changed her character a little bit too. I don't know in the books she's more of a schemer because remember she's been a Jesuit as well.
Hmm.
She seems to be more sympathetic to the plight of Paul, which will change going further how the book. So I don't want to like. We all know Zendaya is great. I think the way they set Chani up going forward is a very big departure, but I think it's a welcome departure. Seeing someone you love become succumb to the power and change who you felt they were
Hmm.
and possibly may become an enemy. So in the book, Chani is a concubine
Hmm.
when he marries Princess Aurelon. In the book, the two of them butt heads, and Paul has to do his best to keep them separate because in his visions, Chani dies.
Right.
And basically, everything he's doing is to keep Chani from dying and to save our species. So you have that going on. And that's why I said Princess Arlon's character is going to be very interesting because how does her character change when she doesn't have to worry about the love of his life always being in the background?
Right.
Like the love of his life is gone. So
Off riding
See,
sandworms somewhere.
so the dynamic between them changes. So I thought Florence Pugh was a very good addition going forward if they're able to walk that fine line of being basically, and don't take this the wrong way, his Paul's equal in the sense of she knows those kind of like Kate Middleton in the royal family. She knows the procedures and all those things to help Paul, who has basically spent the last couple of years being a freedom fighter, an insurgent, a terrorist.
Well,
So
that's interesting. You say a couple years. The timeline is interesting to me.
we don't know what the timeline is.
Well, we kind of do because she still hadn't given birth to the baby yet, so it can
Yes,
only be
yes.
9 months, right?
Well, so we don't know how long. Like we don't know what they've changed timeline wise with the water of life, her ingesting it, did that make the pregnancy longer? So
Mm,
in the book, he's fighting them for years in the desert.
right.
Like Chani has a whole child. And so we don't know what that timeline is from there. Um, but you're right. It seems to be it can't be more than 9 months. It seems like they sped that part up.
Yeah.
Um, but I think those additions, I really like them. I was a little, as much as I love Austin Butler as Fade, I would have loved to have seen more of him. I would
Sure.
have loved to have seen, as much as I loved his introduction, as much as I loved who he, just the way he moved, the way he looked, the way they shot it was beautiful. I just wish we had more time to spend with him. And
You talk about the shooting. I really go ahead.
no, 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 I'm just, that's it.
No, you talk about the shooting. That you said it was Getty Prime,
Yeah, Giddy Prime.
Getty Prime. Man,
Mhm,
that was a great choice, and what a good way to show that the sun. It was a black sun, right? Is that that's what they
mhm,
kept saying? That whole black and white dynamic was great. And then when they popped the fireworks or whatever they were, and they were like ink blots, like
mhm,
this looked beautiful. Um, Dune came out this year, right? Yeah, so it
mhm,
hasn't missed Oscar stuff. So hopefully, I mean, it should get an Oscar for something. The visual effects on it were really nice.
oh,
And
yeah.
then at some points, you could see, depending on whether or not they were outside or in shadow, there were some parts that would be in color versus black and white, just based on
Mhm.
where everything was shot. It just, I really, I'm, I don't really have an eye for that kind of stuff, but for some reason, it really stuck out to me in this movie, seeing it.
One of the things that I thought was really well done is the idea of showing the Fremen as an indigenous people who knew how to survive and exposing their culture. I really wish so Jameis in the first one, who was Paul killed,
Hmm.
that part was left out because Paul has to take care of his family in the way of their traditions. I wish we would have seen more of that, more of the Fremen traditions outside of war, outside of fighting, what their history was like. I really wish we had seen that. So, like this idea that they have these caches of water all over the planet. Um, I feel like I wanted to spend more time with them. And that's why I said I personally did not mind the time of this film because there's so much to get into. Now, hopefully, these TV shows that they have, and I know Max, Warner Brothers Discovery, Warner Discovery has talked about they want two shows. Um, I know one is basically a Bene Gesserit show, and I'm hoping that they were able to see that and see the machinations that Bene Gesserit has, but also the people and how it affects them actually. Because you see, Florence Pugh's character was a Bene Gesserit. Lady Jessica was a Bene Gesserit. Is it Leah or Leia Sado?
I don't know, but I know who you're talking
Lady
about.
Lady Margot
Hmm.
Finry. She was a Bene Gesserit, and then you go all the way down to uh, Charlotte Rampling, who plays the Reverend Mother. How does being in this establishment, this religion, how does it affect you because you're removed from some of you are removed from your families, your houses. Like, so we saw Lady Jessica was really a Harkonnen
Hmm.
who was given up by the Baron as his as part of their society. How does that affect you not knowing where you came from? Um, I'm playing Greedfall right now, and that same little thing that you have where people give up their children to an organization, they call them the Knots, and basically they're seafaring people. So if you have debt or you know, whatever, you give up your child, a baby, you promise them a baby, and certain things happen for you and your family. Those people in the game sometimes wonder where they came from, and one of the characters that you help that's in your party goes back and tries to find out where he came from. And so I wonder, does that happen in this society when
Hmm.
you're a Bene Gesserit? I want to see that side of it, things that you're able to flesh out. For you, does this make you want to dive more into Dune like I do? Like I want more of these stories,
I
or are you
mean,
just a
yeah,
fan?
I would consider reading the original book.
That's big because you
Yeah,
can't read.
I know, right? I would struggle, but I would figure out how to get through it. I would read that and read Dune Messiah and read the other books, and yeah,
Children
it's
of Dune and
yeah, it's I think it did a good job. So longtime fans of us and our previous iteration know when we did a review for, it might have been Aquaman and Black Panther. I talked about those movies did an okay job of building out their world and making me be like, oh, this is what Wakanda is, or this is what Atlantis is. I think these two Dune movies have done a very good job of building out that world to the point where I definitely want to read the books now to get more in depth on it.
Mhm. And it's funny because we've talked about other movies in the past that don't seem to understand world building. And I
Hmm.
think that's something, and one, you already have a blueprint. I think that helps. You
Sure.
have this book. You actually have a Bible where you could like go back and look and say, okay, here's what it says. Now we can change things for the benefit of the film. Um, so that helps. But I also think a lot of films don't spend that time. They just assume you understand this is how things work. Like I thought last year, one of last year's best movies was The Creator, and I really felt they did a very good job of world building in the shorter period of time that they had with that film.
Hmm.
They did a very good job of explaining how things work and how we got here, and the world felt lived in. Like it didn't feel so fantastic or so futuristic that I couldn't believe that that world existed or that it can exist.
Right.
And I think they did a very good job of building Arrakis, you know, to be in a place that you could see how that place works. Um, what do you want to, if they do a third movie, what do you want to see?
I mean, I guess I want to see them. What's next for the Atreides clan now that they are getting ready for the houses? That was a great scene of the houses say, I don't remember what the wording was, but the houses won't accept you taking over. Like, oh, great, this is going to be badass. So I want to see what that means. So now, do we have a movie where Paul and the Fremen are trying to battle these other people all the time? Because
Yes.
that's okay. Well, cool. I want to see that.
So,
Uh, I want to see Chani come back and get back with her man, Paul
oh,
Atreides.
so you do want the happy ending? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm a sucker for happy endings.
No,
There's
I'm just
there's enough negative shit in the real world. Give me a happy ending. Yeah,
it is true. I mean, I can give you a list.
yeah.
No, so that I don't want, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that in the book, the great houses acknowledge Paul becoming emperor.
Mm,
In the movie, they don't. So now you have a whole ferocious group of people who know nothing but war, and you have given them a target to say, hey, those people have kept you in bondage.
hmm.
And those people have basically helped maintain the system that is depressed, uh, stolen, and strip mined your resources and your people. Here's a gun and a knife, go crazy.
Hmm.
I think when we hit Dune 3, we're going to have a time jump because if they bring back Anya Taylor Joy,
Hmm.
if they bring her back, we're going to see a little bit of time jump. Uh, from what I understand and what I remember, 6 billion people die
Oh, geez.
when Paul, throughout the war that Paul and the Fremen unleash upon the rest of the galaxy. So it's going to be interesting. And two, how do you keep that contingent of Fremen together?
Right.
Because here's your savior with all these things happen. Few further down the line in the books, some of these things that Paul has told them is going to happen, it takes a while for it to happen or it doesn't happen. And how do you keep a group of people who believe you are the Messiah believing in you? And then two, what happens when you've never known water being abundant sees a river?
Sure. Yeah.
So like, hey man, he the Messiah, but I ain't never seen the ocean. So like it's a lot of that kind of stuff that I would want to see. Like how what happens next after like you got these people geeked up for war. You like y'all just took down the emperor. You got to be running when you know you watch sports, we cover sports and somebody's like, I heard that speech and I'm ready to run through a wall.
Right.
Well, they're
Yeah.
ready to die.
Yeah.
So and they believe. And so like I really wish we could get more into it, but we've been talking long enough about the juxtaposition that the religious aspect has in this movie and the real world. Because, like, let's be honest, we're looking at the Middle East when you watch this film.
Sure.
We're literally looking at the conflict in the Middle East. Brown people have oil, Westerners want oil, brown people in the way, you's got to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much the story of Dune, with some spaceships thrown in and, a Messiah.
And a sandworm or two. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I really wish I could get like a political scientist who has read the Dune series and then is able to take what's going on in the real world and be like, yes, this is very close to.
Man, that sounds
Um,
like you might work at a place where you should get a special made like that.
I'll work at that place,
Okay. Never mind. Sorry.
sir. We tell the stories of South Carolina.
They ain't got no South Carolina political scientists.
Oh, we do, but we're not about to go into Dune.
I think you could find a back end around way to make that happen.
Trust me, I've thought about
You find some South Carolina science fiction writers, and then you
it.
expand it out.
Yeah, I trust me, I have thought of many different ways, but
Okay.
no, but no. I really enjoyed this question because here's 'cause to me this tells me if someone really likes it or not, and I know I'm putting the way I look at it. Would you buy this film and own it and go back and rewatch it? Because for me, I would, and that's what to me is a sign of a good film. Would you buy it?
Maybe more so than I would something else. I won't say definitively, but maybe.
Okay.
Um, I would definitely consider it. How about that? I'll say that. I'll definitely
Okay.
consider it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those films that's a must buy. Now I don't know if I'll buy like a steel book, but this is definitely a physical copy, digital copy bundle for me when it comes out.
Okay.
So this is up there.
All right. Wrap us up.
Uh, so we've been going for about 45 minutes. Like, comment, and subscribe. Join in on the conversation right down there. Michael won't, but if you tell me what you think, I will tell Michael, and vice versa. Michael could tell you go fuck yourself, um, and I'll just type it in the comments. He might, depend on what you say. Usually he doesn't. But yeah, I want to hear if you guys have seen it, guys and girls out there. Um, Did you watch the first one in theaters, or did you watch that one on your couch like most of us did? I did. And do you want to see a third one? Are you good on Dune, or do you need a third Dune? Do you need like a wrap up? And do you want to see the happy ending that Michael's hoping we get?
That is what I want. All right, folks, that'll do it for us. You can find us here on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. We trying y'all both different ways. We'll be back
Mhm.
with more videos. And for those who have been longtime watchers, we will get back to a more consistent schedule because my schedule will be going back to what it was. So we will be able to record
Yeah.
at our normal time in like 2 weeks or so. So yeah, you should see more stuff soon. Until then, we out. Peace.